Mr. Loo, how do I know how much I need for retirement? Where to put the money, is it 1 million? Is it half a million? Is it 10 million? Is it 5 million? How much? Well, today I have the best answer that I ever gotten, and I want to share with you. The title of my talk today is What Do You Need for a Damn Good Retirement? I don't mean the government answer about a subsistent retirement, okay? I don't want to work very hard on my whole life just to eat chai peng every day, or just eggs and rice every day, kind of thing, right? I think I want a damn good retirement. I don't need super luxurious retirement. I just need to, feel very good to the end of my life, right? So how do I plan for the retirement? So today we're going to have the answer to this question. This is not the only answer, but this is one of the most inspiring answer that I found somewhere. I'm going to explain to you. But make sure you watch to the end to know, okay, how much do I actually need for my own retirement? So a lot of people ask, Mr. Loo, how much do we need for retirement? I don't know how to count. Is it 1 million? I think $1 million is enough. Today, someone wrote to me and just said, no, I got this amount of money in my cash, this amount of money in everything. I got roughly about $2-3 million, right? I actually cannot answer the question whether is it enough because I need to know, what you need it for, right? So if every day you eat chai peng, and self-cook and just stay at home and do nothing, there's more than enough. But you want to travel around the world, you go to US, you want to go Australia, you want to go Japan, you're going to all something, Europe, maybe that's not enough, right? What you would need for retirement, right? So all these are important, but more important really is where to put the money, and really at the heart of it is how to make a plan for retirement, right? Now, the financial planners will give you some idea, but today I have an answer that got inspired by a very brilliant man, and I want to share that with you. Now, clearly, as we walk through the analysis, I'll give you the philosophy and principle first. Take note, when the final number come out, it is suitable for a particular person or suitable for me, but it may not be suitable for you. You got to ask yourself what you need it for. And more importantly, the retirement planning needs to start now, right? While you are still working and you work towards it. But let's see some of these things, shall we? Very interesting analysis. This analysis is inspired by a gentleman called Mr. Patrick Teo, right? Some of y'all may know him, some of y'all may not know. He has a Telegram channel called CPF Wealth 3. A very inspiring man, very brilliant man. Lots of people in my 165 group used to remember him very well. He has now his own Telegram channel, and he published his own thoughts and inspiration every day or every alternate day. But today, one really inspired me to think about it. So I encourage you all to follow his channel and read about it. Again, these are usual disclaimers. How we plan for it is what me and Patrick would think about it, but it may not be suitable. You should decide for yourself. So I think this is an inspiration from what I see from him. It may not be exactly what he mapped it to be, but this inspiration I got from him. So don't think a wholesale is from him, okay? But we should think of it like a financial statement, okay? There is first cash, there's asset and liability. Now, what's cash? Things that generates income, that's it, right? Mainly, we think of cash as job. Your job generate cash for you, and you put it into savings, right? So this is first, just a bucket called cash. But we don't put money just in cash. Cash is what really sits in your bank and, fixed deposit, whatever. But the other two things that's very important is what's your asset? What's your asset? A lot of us will surely have CPF. Some of us have stock. Some of us has property. What are other investment trust funds whatsoever, right? These are assets that you hold that will appreciate in value and grow. And on the other hand, these are things that take money away from you, right? And these may not be luxuries of life. These are things like, car, food, insurance, premium. Your children is liability and asset, by the way, the same thing. Some children are only liabilities, okay? Travel expenses and so on, right? So all these are liabilities. This is not the usual way of saying anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. Anything that take money out is a liability. We want to deviate a bit from this, a little bit, but generally, this is asset, liability, and cash. Think of these three buckets first. These will become important when you look into your retirement planning. So let's analyze this part that is before retirement. Okay, most of us before retirement has a job. Unless you're a homemaker or something like that, most of us will retire, will have a job. And this is what the cash flow should look like, right? First of all, there's money that you earn from your income. You can either put it into the bank as savings, or you could put it into assets that we have described earlier. Right? These are things that appreciate in value, and in time to come will generate income for you. And of course, you put some into liability. things that takes, money away from you, expenses that help you to live every day and things like that. Take note, the arrow is drawn intentionally fat and thin, meaning that you want to have more money into asset and less money into liability so that, it will grow. And that's logical because you want to grow assets, because assets is what protect you from future when you retire, right? So this is what we are thinking of right now. Okay, so think of these three buckets: cash, asset, and liability. But after you retire, now I use the word during retirement, right? Meaning a retirement is a phase of life that can last after you stop working. Some people is 65 years old, some people is 67 years old, some people is 70 years old. You have no job, you no longer has income, okay, from your labor, and that's where you got to rely on your entire plan, okay, that you have done before your retirement. And let's take a look at what this income would be, right? So during retirement, you will no longer have job income. And what support you must be your assets. It has to be your assets, okay? So in this case, it's quite easy to see, right? So your cash is just your savings and you no longer have job income. This is where, you have now a savings buffer that something should happen, you got enough cash savings to tide you through a major crisis. While you're working, and the buffer you have after your retirement is two different magnitude, right? One assumes that you still have ability to work. One assumes that you will not have ability to work anymore. I think that thought must first come to our mind. The second thing we need to take note of is that our assets right now must generate income to fund our liabilities, right? So from this bucket here, CPF, stocks, investment, trust fund, property, etc., this one must give you some income for you to tide through. You have got dividends payout from maybe some of your stock investment and things like that. Some of your asset appreciation, okay, you could pare some of them down and realize its value. Your CPF life payout is quite important. CPF and CPF life payout is two different things. CPF is the CPF interest, or you can draw down from CPF. And for some of us who have property, second or third property, or even your own property that you want to rent out a rooms whatsoever, you got now rental income, and all this will help to fund all your expenses here, right? So this is a easy to understand thing, but take note. These assets here must be built while we are still working. Okay, take note down. Okay, the last thing that you want is to have only cash. Some of us only have cash or near cash substitute for our retirement. That would be a disaster. Let me give you an example from experience I see from my grandmother. So my grandmother used to be a farmer in those days. Of course, she's passed away right now. Used to be a farmer in Lim Chu Kang or something like that, okay? And those days, when the land was being taken back by the government compensated them a sum of money. I remember it was $20,000 over in 1960s, okay? So in 1960, it was $20,000. Those days was a hell of money. She, in her own wisdom, put the money in the bank. And she said that I'm a very frugal lady. I think I can survive this for the rest of my life. And she did. That $20,000 lasted her for her whole life. She died at the age of 97 years old. In Chinese, they call it 100 already. They added 3 more years. It doesn't matter. So she was near a centurion, right? And she died 100 years old. And when the bank account was being released out, you know how much money she has? She has got $20,000. So she basically lived off that interest for her whole life. Not a lot of money, but that was enough for her. What does it mean? The only thing she had was savings. Had she put the money in those days, people just buy some property, whatever property, $20,000 in 1960 something might be enough for you to buy, a landed property, right? But she didn't. The only thing she know about investment is to put in the bank, and that was a big, huge disaster, right? So the only thing that she had was cash. Some of y'all are in the same situation. The only thing you have is your CPF and your cash, right? That will be the biggest disaster that you can ever have for your retirement, because you'll see in a short while how that will be eroded by inflation and all this. So Mr. Loo, you talk so much. Can you just tell me what to do, right? Step by step. Well, let's see. Well, first of all, you need to look at your cash situation, and I've talked about it. Number one is, while we're still working, most of us like to keep 3 to 6 months of expenses as a cash buffer. I will argue ever since COVID, we need 6 to 9 months or even 12 months as a buffer, because nowadays unexpected things happen, can last for very long. And the next thing we need to take note is that after we retire, Mr. Patrick Teo actually advised, and I truly agree, right? And he says this, but in retirement, this cash buffer should be equals to 2 to 3 years of expenses. This buffer allows us to ride through market crashes and economic downturn that could last 2 to 3 years without disruption to our lifestyle. Now, of course, you can always say, if that happens, I every day eat eggs and porridge, right? Yeah, that's true. But, you try not to let that happen. That's why you keep a living expense of 2 to 3 years. Let me just say this, okay? I've said it before, the worst thing you could ever have for retirement is just cash, right? And I talk about the story of my grandmother. So take note of this, right? 3 to 6 months of living expenses before retirement, 2 to 3 years of living expenses after retirement as a safety net. The next thing you should do is to consider your asset situation. And this is where he rightfully categorized 3 types of asset, okay? First of all, he actually says, identify which of your income sources are reliable and which are not. Treat the non-reliable ones as bonuses. That means good to have, don't have, won't die, okay? So there are 3 classification of assets. Number 1 is consistent income generating. Now, Mr. Loo has quite a little of that right now because I don't believe in rental, I don't believe in dividends. But as my life goes closer to retirement, near 70 years old, I might have to need more and more of this, okay? And this is where I'll talk about it later. And these are things that we know with a high certainty, not 100%, but very high certainty that it is going to generate, income on a regular basis. So this will be your CPF interest, especially your dividend income, from the banks or whatsoever. I wouldn't put REITs as one of these, very unreliable now. Rental income, I think, is pretty reliable from property that you might have or rooms that you might want to rent out. So this is the pool of asset that is most important for retirement. There are also assets that are non-reliable and income generating, right? So what are these? I thought of this is my own quotation, okay? Children's tithing, right? Some of us think that we have children, they'll give us income, right? I would just say that this is a fat hope nowadays, okay? Because the children's cost of living and their lifestyle is actually quite tough right now. So I wouldn't count on it. It comes as a bonus, right? Insurance payout, some of them are so-called guaranteed. I would consider them, especially those that say that, your estimated payout would be this, that. I wouldn't count on those things, okay? And then there are non-income generating asset, right? Especially high volatile stocks like S&P 500, NASDAQ, your own stay property that you refuse to rent it out is not income generating. It's not even called an asset, okay? Stop fooling yourself that it's called an asset. Those people who believe in this asset progression, and later regression, that kind of thing, that's an absolute, nonsense to me, right? Yeah, so that kind of lifestyle change is just a huge drop, right? But it's nonsense to me, but some of y'all it is, okay? Buy big house and wait until retire, go and move in a small house. Where are you gonna keep all your things, in boxes? They're never gonna open for the rest of your life, and so on, right? So we now have 3 buckets of assets, and now it's important to see which one do we need for retirement. Then consider your liability situation. Liability is basically your expenses. This is where you actually have money that you have to pay. Some of this is highly dependent on your lifestyle. The easy thing will be, must pay one, yeah? Your utilities, your income tax, your property tax, insurance premium, health insurance, or whatever, right? All this, remember, some of these things goes up as you grow older. Some of y'all like, Netflix, I have Netflix, I have YouTube Premium and all this. All this must be factored in, right? These are things that you use right now, right? Right now for lifestyle. Then what about in future? You gotta think whether you still need a car, right? And some of us, maybe we don't need a fancy car anymore. We just need to have the same old car, but renew the COE, right? All this you need to factor in the expenses. And some of us will continue to need a domestic helper. Domestic helper is even more needed when we are old. Some of us, because of health situation, needs more than that, right? As we go older, maybe we need more than a domestic helper. We need a caretaker. And this is where some of the maids from overseas, they were former nurses, right? You have to pay more to have them, they'll take care of you, okay? But their expenses comes high. And, what are healthcare expenses, as you grow older, your health gets worse. Even Mr. Loo consider very fit, every day I do 40 push-ups and 100 leg raises and things like that, I now still taking cholesterol pills and some health pills here and there already. Right? Body doesn't seem to be working as well as I used to. A lot of us want to do holidaying and traveling when we retire. This is a very important thing to factor that in. So let's take a look at how it goes right now. It's important for us then to plan the scenarios, right? And this is where Mr. Patrick Teo make it mention very, very well. He says that there is a phase of life where he called it a go-go phase, right? 63 to 74. I assume he's not 63 yet. I think he's near early 60s, okay? But somewhere between 63 and 74, they want to travel around the world in this phase, right? Front load a lot of retirement expenses. This is where they probably have the buffer in a lot of air tickets, a lot of hotel expenses, and so on, right? So the next one is from 74 to 84. This is where you go slow, right? Little to zero traveling, right? Mainly regional trips, and not likely to have a car, so expenses start to dip. And then, 85 onwards, how on earth are you going to travel, right? Nowadays, my father is now 86. Ask him to travel, he would refuse to go, even to go Malaysia. Right? Travel once, he said no more. So these traveling expenses now to be replaced with medical expenses. That I think is a very sound planning, very sound planning. For me, actually, I fly so much that I so scared of traveling that the only place I want to go is Singapore and Malaysia and don't want to go anywhere. Maybe regional, okay? Maybe a bit of Thailand, maybe of Vietnam, that kind of thing. I'm sick of flying and traveling, but it all depends on your lifestyle. Your hope is this, that when you retire, your assets will bring you enough income to support your liability. And let's take a look at this very important chart, shall we? Now, this is Mr. Patrick Teo's analysis. Beautiful chart. Take note, this is his. And this doesn't mean that you need to be this way, okay? Let's take a look at his sunshine scenario, okay? Which means I think it's kind of like a optimistic scenario. His analysis is very scientific, right? I forgot to tell you, he's an ex-Stanford graduate, right? Very brilliant gentleman, okay? And so let's take a look. This is a couple finances, right? So look at his expenses, went through a lot of science and well-thinking, go up and down, that kind of thing. This is what he called a sawtooth kind of thing. And why is it sawtooth? When you start retiring, you take away some expenses, and then inflation comes in. Inflation is assumed to be at 3%, okay? So basically, he and his wife at retirement, okay, want to do a lot of traveling. They cater about, $165,000 a year. That will include traveling, all this. If you include traveling now, $160,000 is not a lot of money, yeah. So before someone think it, wow, this is too much. I actually don't need so much, yeah. If you want to factor in a lot of traveling, $160,000 is not enough. Okay, I travel every month. I know how much it takes. Okay, and by the way, I don't travel every month to tour. I travel every month to work. Okay, so before everybody gets jealous of Mr. Loo, okay, then somewhere around here there's a big COE renewal that they plan, and then somewhere around here it gradually drops down as they cut down some of their expenses, and they go all the way on. Somewhere around here, the inflation start kicking in. Okay, and it goes at a 3% increment. And as their life gets down, to the next phase, it falls down, and it goes up again by a 3% every year. And then it goes down again as their life changes. They travel a lot less to no travel, and then their 3% inflation kicks in again. Take note, okay? Take note. This income, this kind of expenses is a good analysis of what I call a very reasonable, nice retirement. I didn't say it's luxurious. It's a nice retirement. And if you factor in the whole, let's say you live until 100 years old, which they won't, but let's say you live until 100 years old, you will need $6.15 million. Okay, let's say you cut off at somewhere 90, maybe you need 5, okay? But whatever, you need a huge amount of money. I don't think this is extravagant. This is just okay. This is just a nice retirement, right? This is not holding back. This is just continue to live a great life. I like this kind of life, to be frank. But let's take a look at his income, shall we? His income is very generous because he's a very astute investor. So I give you the breakdown. So 64 to 66 years old, he has got dividend income, okay, 96,000. That means he has a lot of dividend stocks. And he has a rental, which is about 3,600 a month. Just, I don't know, a simple house. The OA interest is a phenomenal 72,500. So every month, which means he's easily hitting 4M65 at the age, okay? 4M65. Then there's SRS as well, okay? And I can't remember how SRS work out. And then if you moved on, his OA interest continue, okay? And the rest, the CPF life kicks in, and that gives him extra 72,000. 72,000 times 2, which is roughly about 3,600 a month. That's basic plan. And that basically gives him, all the way until the SRS drop off. So if you look at it, his annual cash flow is about 255,000 to about 300,000, then 255,000. So this is his phase of life. So yearly, so his income is a very rich, dividend passive income of 200 to 300 over $1,000 annually. And of course, with that, it generates a phenomenal $10.6 million to 100 years old. But let's say you cut that down to 90 or 80, it'll be 8 million or something like that. So this is his great plan. He clearly have factored in a lot of assets to make sure he generates this kind of income. This would be a great retirement, right? Let's take a look at Mr. Loo's one, adapting from his one. So this is where Mr. Loo, bastardized some of his charts. Sorry, Patrick. I actually think that, these expenses would be half if I retire in JB. Okay, so maybe I don't need 3 million. Sorry, I don't need 6 million. I need just 3.5 million or so. I don't have much dividends. I don't have much rental, but my OA I think would be roughly the same as his. Okay, SRS, my guess is about same as his. And my CPF life, because I'm in a new scheme, and he's probably in the old scheme, I will have a higher CPF life, so mine is higher. I haven't factored in all the other, S&P fund or whatever, which I don't think they are dividend generating. So somewhere around here, I generate about $100 to $200,000 of cash flow annually, and that my guess is probably going to give me a $5 million, like to like in the same period. So this would be enough for me as well. You get a hang of it, how this thing plan out. So really, it is about looking at your own lifestyle, how you draw the sawtooth graph according to yours, and look at how you generate, income through the assets that you plan. I think this is a very interesting environment, right? So think about yourself. This one may go down to 2 million, okay, or 1 million, and then you look at how much asset you have. I hope this inspire you to start thinking, I need assets. I need income generating assets that will generate income for me. You don't need to be rental. So some people say, I quickly go and buy another house. Mr. Loo doesn't have that. It's still okay. I need to put a lot of money into dividend stocks. I don't have that. I'm still okay. So what is the asset that you have? Of course, anchoring it, it must be a damn good CPF, right? And the rest of it will come easy. So question really is, what is yours? What is yours? So start thinking about it. There is no one size that fit all kind of solution. The amount that Patrick needs and he's going to generate went through years, if not decades of good planning, right? He's very wise and financially savvy. I have my own strategy. I need a lot less. Then what do you think I buy a JB house for, right? And also, for you, what is yours? Everybody wants and needs and financial situation is very different, but the principle remains the same. Plan your retirement and work backwards. Plan in buffers and invest your income into assets before retirement. With this, thanks for watching and thanks, Mr. Patrick, for sharing. Okay, and I'll see you in a day or two. Bye bye.